In this video, I discuss 7 things you need to know before you decide when to take Social Security. Coming up next on Holy Schmidt.
Holy Schmidt!
One of the single most important decisions to make in retirement is when to take Social Security. For many Americans, Social Security represents almost half of what they have to spend on a monthly basis. Yet, as important as this decision is, the way that people actually make the decision and the way that they should make the decision are often 2 different things. Some make the decision to take Social Security like they decide on whether or not they should buy a pack of gum at checkout at the grocery store. This is a mistake. Deciding when to take Social Security takes an informed mind, and these 7 areas of focus will help build a foundation for you to make that decision. Stick around to the end because the last point is quite possibly the most important for many of you, and it's the one that most people actually get wrong. All right, let's go. The first thing you need to know is what Social Security says you're entitled to as of today. There's a saying that applies to just about every aspect of life, and that is, you can't get to where you want to go if you don't know where you are today. This is particularly true with Social Security. For some of you, a few extra years of work could add 30% onto your payment depending on where you fall on the earnings scale or where you have historically fallen on the earnings scale. We'll discuss why this is in just a moment when we have a discussion about Social Security bend points. I do call Social Security bend points the great equalizer because those with a modest income do really well when their income is run through the bend points, which ultimately determines the payment, and those with mega incomes do less well. So go to ssa.gov and click on the left-hand side where it says My Social Security. If this is your first time visiting ssa.gov to find out what your Social Security looks like, it takes about 3 minutes to register. After that, you'll be good to go. They ask basic questions like what's your Social Security number, what's your address, what's your email address, etc. Then download your Social Security statement. On that statement, it will have your expected payout at age 62, 67, and 70. It will then show your work history for the last 20, 30, 35, 40 years, depending on how long you've been working. Take a look at that history and see if it looks directionally correct. Believe it or not, mistakes happen. I've heard of many people who have had their Social Security statement corrected and their numbers uplifted because the SSA missed something from 30 years ago. By the way, you don't need to know if what's on there is the right answer, but you do need to know if it's the wrong answer. Meaning, if you have a 0 and you know that year you worked, for example. Flag it to the SSA and let them look into it. Point number 2 is know where you stand on the big 3. Your 35 years of work history in today's dollars, your average adjusted monthly income, and how those all feed through in Social Security bend points. Let me explain. The SSA will take your best 35 years of work history in today's dollars, so adjusted to today's dollars, and divide that by 35. That's an annual number. That number is what they use to determine how much you receive from the SSA. They take that single number and they feed them through what are called Social Security break points or bend points. By the way, if you don't have 35 years of work history, the SSA will give you zeros for those years. The SSA uses a progressively less impactful attribution to your Social Security payment depending on how much you earn, meaning the more you earn, the less each subsequent dollar is valued at for payment in Social Security dollars. This also means that you can cover up some low years or 0 years with some strong years in your earnings history. Let me explain. If you earned $10,000 per year in today's dollars over the last 35 years, that's $350,000 in today's dollars, 35 years of earnings. But let's say that you only worked 10 years and you earned $35,000 per year over those 10 years, again in today's dollars. Again, that's $350,000, and again, that is an average of $10,000 per year over the 35 years. So the higher earning years cover the zeros. To be clear though, if you earned $10,000 per year on average, whether it's $10,000 a year for 35 years or $35,000 a year for 10 years, you would be at the bottom end of the Social Security payout scale. This also means that if you worked a little bit longer and you lifted that $10,000 per year average to say $12,000 per year, you could make a very meaningful impact on your Social Security payment. If you want to see how Social Security bend points work, I have the current year's data on my website. You can go to holyschmidt.com/bendpoint and download a free worksheet. You just dump in a bit of information and it will spit out various scenarios for you depending on how much you've earned and how much you could potentially earn in the years ahead. And the worksheet gives step-by-step directions on how to calculate your own Social Security using bend points. It's quite simple once you've done it once. The third thing you need to know before determining when to draw your Social Security is if you're planning on continuing to work while taking Social Security, even part-time. If so, do you know the earnings limits for the year? These are earnings amounts beyond which you will rapidly lose Social Security. And these are big numbers. For example, if this is a non-full retirement age year for you, so 62, 63, 64, 65, etc., in 2022, if you earn more than $19,560, for every $2 beyond that, you have to give $1 back. If this is the year that you reach full retirement age, either 66 or 67, or somewhere in between, for most of you actually, you have to give back $1 for every $3 earned over $51,960. These amounts go up modestly every year, but you can see, except for the year you reach full retirement age, there's a reasonable chance that you will go beyond the limits if you're working full-time, and you could go beyond the limits even working part-time. The next point you need to know before deciding when to take Social Security is when you plan to retire, and will that be your decision or theirs? Sometimes people are fortunate enough to have done really well in their careers and have the ability to plan their exit, the departure of their job at a time that they choose. This makes the exit easier for the retiree. They get out on their terms, often without a lot of financial hardship, and they ease into the next phase of their life. And those that get out early, very early in some circumstances, have a disproportionate focus on retirement compared to other people. These people don't save 10% of their income. They save 20 or 30 or 40. They invest well and they keep their costs to a minimum. For them, retirement is a playground and they want to go out and play. Oftentimes, this is not the case. The days ahead in your career are less certain as you approach retirement. In this scenario, it makes sense to consider different Social Security draw points. One for a near-term exit, one for a medium-term exit, and one for an ideal exit, the one that you choose. Knowing the certainty or uncertainty of your exit is important. It allows you to adjust on the fly and keep your mind focused on optimizing your Social Security, no matter what the outcome of your job. Along those same lines, the next thing you'll need to consider is how well you are prepared financially for retirement ex Social Security. If you saved well, lived modestly, and you go into retirement with a light expense load, then you can adjust your Social Security payment to reflect when you want to take Social Security, not because you need Social Security. In other words, you can hold off until it builds to a number that you think is appropriate. There's no requirement for you to file for Social Security when you retire. In fact, people who retire very early might not file for a decade or two. And always remember, the longer you wait, the higher your payment, at least up until age 70. So take that into consideration when you're thinking about your overall financial condition. Point 6, make sure you fully understand the interplay between your Social Security benefit and the spousal benefit, and vice versa. Your spouse's Social Security benefit and their spouse benefit, optimizing the best combination for both of you. With the exception of divorce, the spousal benefit can't be drawn until the primary insured draws on their benefit. Timing this right is crucial, particularly if both you and your spouse both have Social Security benefits. And number 7, the single most important element for most retirees when determining when to draw Social Security. Do you have a good idea of what retirement will cost and a good idea of what your sources of income look like? This is a huge question because the answer is vastly different for everyone. If you told me, for example, that I have $2 million, am I good to go? I'd have to tell you I need more information. If you lived in many parts of this country or other parts of the world, that number could be a fraction of $2 million and you could live very, very well. If you lived in other parts of the country, that number would not be nearly enough. Think Manhattan, Tribeca, NoHo, Hudson Yards, or Central Park South. Sitting down with a financial planner, or at least financial planning software like Mint or Quicken Premier, will go a long way to help you determine what your cash flow will look like in retirement. By the way, what I like about Quicken Premier is that it allows you to create what-if scenarios to test all sorts of different things. It's something I use myself and I've been thoroughly happy with it. If you like this video, please make sure you click subscribe and turn on notifications so that you get alerted the next time I post a video. I post about twice a week. This is Jeff Schmidt. Thanks for watching.